Hello, everybody. I would like to thank all of you for joining in to one of our IADS webinars. So today's topic is sustainability in dental practice management, reducing emissions of mercury, examples from Sweden. Our speaker today is Dr. Anders Jansson, and he will be talking about dental amalgam. So dental amalgam, as you all know, is a very hot topic in global health and in dentistry currently, with various EU regulations having been executed last year. So he will talk a little bit about a project that also got financial support from the EU and is helping to prepare the European Union member states and dental clinics in reducing the amalgam usage, and roughly then targeting environmental issues and the waste management of amalgam. Sweden, as we all know, does not use amalgam anymore since 2009. So with this short introduction, I would like to forward the discussion to Dr. Jansson. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Just a short introduction of myself. as you heard of the former speaker, I'm a dentist in Sweden, and I graduated from the University of Gothenburg back in 1984. So I'm not that young anymore, but I'm not that old either. So I continued to work, of course, as a dentist at the Folktandvården, which is the public-run operator in Sweden, for a couple of years, and then I started private practice from 1990 within the Praktikertjänst group, and I'm going to explain later what the Praktikertjänst group is. Here you can see what I'm saying as well. From 2002 to 2014, I was the chairman of the board of the Praktikertjänst group, and also chairman of the board of the Praktikertjänst pension fund. Presently, I'm working at the research and development within the quality department, where I, as you may understand later on, is involved in this LIFE project. And besides, I've been since 1990 having different positions within the Swedish Dental Association. So in brief, I'm half-time dentist, half-time various other stuff, which is very interesting and it's challenging in every way. The Praktikertjänst group is owned and operated by the profession, and the profession is dentists, doctors, lab technicians, nurses, etc. And we have about 1,400 clinics in Sweden. And there are 1,100 dental clinics, and as you may see in the picture, we have 145 health and rehabilitation clinics, 270 specialist clinics, dental laboratories, and 15 subsidiaries. The business model is unique, and it combines small business, individual freedom and vicinity with the large group's efficiency and economic strength. Not strange, but strength. In 2017, the revenues amounted to approximately 10.6 billion Swedish kronor, which is approximately 1 billion euro. And the number of employees were and are approximately 9,000. Quick word about dentistry in Sweden. The population of Sweden is about 10 million. I think it's about 10.4 exactly today. And dental care for children and adolescents is free of charge, at least up to the age of 23. Adults, which are the 24 plus, pay a large part of their dental care themselves, approximately 70%, and the social insurance systems covers parts of the cost, approximately 30%. And approximately 95% of the children and adolescents have contact with dental care over the 2-year period. And for the 24 plus, it's about 70% that goes to the dentist every second year. I'd say about 5% of the population in Sweden don't have any teeth at all. They either have implants or whatever. Dentistry in Sweden, in the numbers, we are about close to 8,000 dentists, and 3,600 work in the private sector. The rest are employed by the local councils, which is Folktandvården. We have about 4,000 dental hygienists, and there is about 1,000 assistants, which is dental nurses. And the turnover for dentistry in Sweden overall is about 2.5 billion euros. Now over to today's topic, which is the environment and the environmental supervision in Sweden in particular. The Swedish Environmental Protection Agency acts as the central coordinator for the supervision concerning the environmental legislation. And the municipalities, which are about 290, and county boards, which is about 21, have the direct responsibility for environmental supervision. The supervision involves checking the practices that do not violate the provisions of the code, and that they have their own internal inspection, as we have in my clinic as well. Municipalities and county boards are also responsible for advising on how supervision is handled. Dental amalgam in Sweden. First, I'd like to say that this EU finance project, the aim of it is not to say whether we should use amalgam as a filling material or not. This is strictly an environmental project that concerns the waste and the separators, etc., etc. But dental amalgam is still the greatest environmental impact in dental clinics. And the use in dental clinics has been in Sweden, as mentioned before, has been banned since 2009. And that was due to the environmental impact only. Didn't have anything to do with if it's a good filling material or not. And the filling composition is approximately 50% mercury, and the rest is silver, tin, and copper. And it's estimated that there is still about 15 tons of mercury in the teeth of the Swedish population. Amalgam separators has been required since the late 80s and by national law since 1999. And the requirement applies to all units or premises, all dental units or premises. Despite demands for amalgam separators, there are a few dental clinics that have zero emissions of mercury. Might be like orthodontics or so. The finest amalgam particles is not captured by separators. And that's one of the topics, one of the issues that we've tried to establish. Is that so or not? And the hazardous waste, which is mercury, of course, is transported by environmental maintenance service at least once a year. Decontamination. We have a problem with decontamination of the piping system. There is an accumulation of mercury in the piping system, and we get emissions to waste water. The accumulation of mercury in piping system of dental clinics over many years may constitute a source of continuous releases of amalgam and mercury to wastewater. And the risk of mercury being stored in the pipes is particularly high in those practices where dental services were provided prior to the requirement for separators, which was in 1999, and where older separators with poorer function than modern ones are used. The removal of old amalgam fillings is the main source of dental amalgam released to wastewater today, as we don't do any new fillings. The technical development of dental equipment with high-speed drills, replacing more slowly rotating drills in technically advanced nations, has increased mercury emitted to air or released to water when removing or replacing amalgam fillings. This is caused by smaller particles created by the high-speed drills, which really don't get stuck in the separators. According to Swedish rules, the pipes must be decontaminated when a dental practice is no longer to be operated at the premises. Mercury contaminated drainage, pipes, waterlogs, and floor wells are flushed clean, and all water from the contamination process is then collected for post-treatment. Operational decontamination is suitable practice prior to replacement of a suction system. Failure to carry this out entails risk of stoppage and high emission of amalgam. In the event of change of ownership, decontamination may be recommended to ensure that each practitioner assumes responsibility, liability for their own actions, for his and her share, of course, of the environmental liability. This is a recommendation at Praktikertjänst when changing dentists at the clinic. Now over to dental amalgam in the EU. Dental amalgam is the largest use of mercury in the Union and a significant source of pollution. And the quantity of mercury contained in people's mouth in the EU member states has been estimated to over 1,000 tons. And it's assumed that 75% of the dental facilities are equipped with amalgam separators. Most dental practices are equipped with chairside traps and vacuum filters. 95% of the mercury discharges to the vacuum pump system goes to the chairside filters and vacuum pump filters, while 5% goes directly to the sewer, which means to wastewater plants. Chairside filters and vacuum pump filters together have an average mercury removal efficiency of 45%, only 45%. There are legal requirements to install amalgam separators in the following countries as of today, before these regulations from the EU, the new ones. And that is in Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Germany, France, Finland, Italy, Latvia, Malta, Netherlands, Portugal, Sweden, Slovenia, and the United Kingdom. It is estimated that approximately 34,000 additional dental clinics will have to install a separator as of the new regulations. And as we said before, the standard efficiency of amalgam separators is about 95%, but we think so. But actual efficiency is assumed to be quite lower due to a lack of proper maintenance observed in many cases. It is roughly estimated that the average efficiency is about 70%. It is estimated that approximately 53,000 dental clinics will need to significantly improve their maintenance of their equipment. This is, of course, a huge challenge for the dental business in the EU to be able to cope with these new regulations. But we have to do that. We have to do that. Because if you see these figures, that dental amalgam in the EU is about 16 to 23 tons of mercury each year is emitted to the air. And 2 to 4 tons mercury per year is emitted to surface water. And approximately 16 to 24 tons mercury per year is emitted to the soil and the groundwater. And 31, well, say close to 50 tons mercury per year is sequestered for long-term or recycled. These are figures from the study that is made by the European Commission in 2012. So this project, the HV Red Life, that is financed by the European Union, was to minimize emissions of mercury from dental clinics in Sweden and hopefully in other EU countries as well. And in order to minimize, to do this project, which is going to minimize emissions of mercury, Praktikertjänst Group has, in cooperation with 2 other organizations, Sweden Recycling, and IVL, which is the Swedish Environmental Research Institute, we have initiated this project that has received financial support from LIFE, which is the EU's financial instrument supporting our environmental, nature conservation, and climate action projects throughout the EU. And through this project, we take our responsibility for a sustainable society. The project has the name, as you've seen, HGRID by the EU, and it was named by the EU actually. And it started in September 2016 and will run for 3 years. So it's going to be terminated this year. And the project's main purpose is to minimize emissions of mercury from dental clinics in Sweden and hopefully in other EU countries as well. And the reason why the project received financial support is that the focus is reducing the emissions of mercury at the source, which is the dental clinic, which is much more efficient than reducing it at the wastewater treatment plants. They cannot cope really with this mercury, amount of mercury. And here you can see what the new regulations is to be in the EU. And this is why we got the financial support from EU, because from 1st of July last year, children under the age of 15 and pregnant or breastfeeding women may not be treated with amalgam fillings. And from 1st of January this year, amalgam may only be used in pre-dosed encapsulated form. Amalgam separators with a retention level of at least 95%, and dentists ensure that amalgam waste is handled and collected by an authorized waste management establishment. It's not good to have a separator, and when the amalgam and the mercury is separated, no one takes care of it. That's no good. From the 1st of July this year, each member state shall set out a national plan concerning the measures it intends to implement to phase down the use of dental amalgam. And the phase out of the use of dental amalgam in the long term as a filling material is preferably by 2030. And this is, as you may see in the picture, is the EU regulation, which is in place right now. And the main objectives is for the study for this EU finance project is to raising awareness and knowledge about mercury's environmental impacts, and as well as further developing existing methods for decontamination, and of course developing proposals for guidance on mercury control within the EU. And the target groups that we worked together with in this project is dental clinics, of course, and of course as well service technicians. If we had the clinic, we had the separators, we have someone who's going to maintenance the equipment, and that's the service technicians, of course. And then we have the local authorities, and we may say that in Sweden the competence within the local authorities is very broad, I may say. In some parts of Sweden, they don't really know that much, and in other parts they are a lot better, a lot more angry, so to speak. The new methods for decontaminations, as you may see in the pictures, and I'm going to explain a bit about it, is that the decontamination of drainage pipes is an important element of the project in order to develop more effective and cheaper technologies. This may involve, for example, being able to improve cleaning of narrow or long pipes. And so far, approximately 40 practices have been decontaminated within the framework of the project, and more are in the pipeline, of course. For the purposes of the documentation, video inspection has been carried out before and after decontamination. As within recycling, our company here in Sweden has a mobile flushing device so that pipes located higher up in the property can be reached. And the pipes that have been decontaminated are labeled with the date of decontamination and the name of who performed the work. The process takes about 3 to 4 hours. The treatments of patients can continue immediately after decontamination has been completed. And what have we found? Well, we have found a lot. We have collected so far in these nearly 40 clinics 16.8 kilos of mercury. And the quantity varies a lot, as you may see in the picture. And we have not really found any explanation really why these differences has occurred. But the effect of this suction system, efficiency of amalgam separators, and slope on pipes are possible explanations. And I'd say it's well, the age of the clinic, of course. We put together some guidelines for how to handle these separators. And in the guidelines, you can see the requirements for separators. You can see numbers of separators, installation of separator, how to do that, installation of suction system, patient treatment routines, handling of amalgam waste, environmental maintenance service, decontamination, etc., etc., etc. And the name of this is Minimizing the Emission of Mercury from Dental Amalgam, Guidelines for Dental Care in Sweden. This is a co-op between Praktikertjänst, Sweden Recycling, IVL, and is financed, as I said before, by the European Union. So this is quite a heavy guideline. It's more than 50 pages, actually. But it gives you, as a dentist, it gives the dental technicians a lot of info about how to handle this as properly as possible. We've discussed these guidelines on several workshops throughout Sweden, kind of dialogue meetings with dental teams, dental technicians, and environmental offices in the counties, municipalities. And the meetings have resulted in many comments which have been documented. And there is a difference. Sweden is a quite large country, and there is a difference between the southern part and northern part, and between countryside and the big cities like Stockholm and Gothenburg. And here you can see a picture of what the website looks like. It's free, and it contains films, articles. It's a quiz in there. And it has these examples from Sweden. And you can find it in English, German, French, Spanish, and Swedish, of course. And you can all as well see the web page there. And we kind of like to call it an open free training course on how the dental industry can minimize emissions from dental amalgam. There are also a couple of short video clips, interactive articles, and documents from these examples from Sweden, as I mentioned before. And on our website, the Praktikertjänst Group, we also have info about sustainable dentistry, where a little effort can make a big difference, of course. We all have to take part in this kind of greener dentistry for the future. Further questions: where is mercury found? What is the role of the dental industry? How to minimize emissions, decontaminations, etc., etc., etc. This was a kind of a quick guide of what this project is all about, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will begin with a couple of questions. I have 2 from my side, and then there are 3, I think, that we received as well. So firstly, going back to the very beginning of all this, let's say, a good environmental movement in Sweden, from the dental side, was this, like, regarding the amalgama, was it initiated by the dental association, or do you have a dental chamber? Or was it something that was, the government said that we need to now address waste management in the dental industry as well? Where did it start from?
I think it was kind of a combination. I just started out being a dentist back in the 80s when these topics came up. And patients didn't like the fillings. The government, they didn't like the mercury. and we as dentists, we had to listen up, and we had to take steps to be kind of a leading position. It's always like when you don't take part, you will be run over in the end. So it was kind of a mixture of different things. But I'd say the main reason for this was of political reasons, political sources.
Interesting.
Yep.
Also, now something that we are trying to discuss more and more in IADS as well is globally to cut down mercury and amalgam usage in the world. And this is also a very hot topic at WHO in the oral health department, and they are having these big discussions with industries as well on finding alternative materials. But as a dentist in Sweden, and with all this knowledge you have, then we think on a global scale. Like with EU, it's easier because we're quite regionally to set these EU guidelines. But looking outside of the European Union, what are the main points, or what are the main things that need to be done so that honestly, from one side, the waste would be managed better in the world, and also that the usage would be lowered a lot?
I think we have to acknowledge the Minamata Convention, which is based on a UN proposal, and it started back in the 50s in Minamata in Japan, where the huge factory got rid of their waste, just pushed it out in the ocean, and the fish and the waste was mercury. Fish ate the mercury, cats were fed by the fishermen with the fish, and the cats became like drunk. And finally, the humans ate the fish as well. And you've for sure seen pictures of the children of Minamata where they are severely damaged by the mercury. I think this is not about showing scary pictures, but we have to raise the awareness between us all about how the amalgam, what it consists of, that it is mercury, and how dangerous mercury really is. And for us as dentists, when this issue came up in Sweden back in the 80s, the dentists were quite hesitant because the plastic fillings, the composite fillings at that time, were not as good as it is today. We felt that composite fillings were not a good alternative to amalgam. So therefore, it was kind of a rough discussion, I'd say. But I think we have to look at the environmental concerns, what's going to happen with the mercury if we waste it in the ocean, for example. That's the only way.
Good. And also, actually, then talking about plastic, this is another topic completely, but very soon, probably also the composite fillings will be a huge issue in dentistry.
Yes.
Because now already with the EU regulations cutting down nanoparticles from cosmetical products, it's the first step of several to come.
Yeah, that's true. And we don't really know what this gives the manufacturers of our units. They are the ones that has to take steps forward to make our units more efficient in separating nanoplastics from wastewater, as well as we've done with mercury. And I think that the amalgam separators has been, it's not like Einstein technique, but separating nanoplastic particles may be a tougher issue for the manufacturers. But we have to take that in consideration as well.
Good. So there are a couple of questions about the separators as well. So regarding the infrastructure that's around waste management and getting the waste from the dental clinics to be like precisely also recycled, then in Sweden, the guidelines that you have made also with the help of the European Union, how, like, can countries get also some consultation from, let's say, your organization, or is it completely left to every, let's say, from the, for example, the, I don't know, UK or Czech Republic or Latvia, they who have the separators there, then is it only local? Like they have to manage with their own, find their way how to manage with the waste, or can they consult as well?
I see what you mean. I'd say the legislation process in different countries is very different. And as I mentioned before, in Sweden, it's the local authorities that handle these kind of issues. And I don't know what's it going to be like in Estonia or in Germany or in Great Britain. But for sure, I think there's going to be some sort of governmental guidelines as well. And I think, as I said before, the spread of knowledge in Sweden between these 290 local authorities that's no good. That's no good. So out of every aspect, I think you have to collect the competence at governmental level. That would be the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Also, about the checking, I understand that you mentioned that 75%. So in the EU, they have separators based
Yes.
on what you checked. But who's responsible for checking if a dental clinic, has the separator and if everything around the waste management is being correctly done? Is it the environmental authority, or is it some other authority from dentistry, or?
As I said, in Sweden, it's the local authorities within these 290 municipalities. I don't know what's it like in other countries, but it's for sure has to be some department somewhere that has to take care of these issues. And as I said before, if the requirement is to have a separator and it's not handled properly, then it's no go to have it from start.
Okay, and what about the separator types? Do you have different types of separators, or are they all equally, let's say, the chair side ones good?
I'd say most of the ones that we have in Sweden are not manufactured in Sweden, by the way. Most of them are manufactured by either Sweden Recycling, which is owned by a German company, or is it by Dur? And there are kind of a couple of others manufacturers as well. So I don't think that's no problem. That's no problem. If you specify what the requirements for how much it should, well, let's say it's 95% or it's 75%. The producers, they fix that. The problem is that the separators are not as good as we think. So approximately 20% passes by for various reasons, either because it doesn't work properly because it's full, or it's not maintained properly. There are several reasons for why it's not 95%.
Okay, thank you. For now, we are finished with the questions. I would like to thank you very, very much again. It's very important for dental students to know more about this topic, and really, it was extremely interesting. Thank you.
May I ask one thing?
Yes, of course.
One thing. As we met at the IADS in Cologne, we actually, the LIFE project was the only booth or showcase that contained environmental issues out of
all the thousands.
Yes, we had, as we met, as I mentioned before, there was 160,000 visitors at the IADS in Cologne, which is just a huge number of dentists or technicians, etc. And we were the only ones speaking about these issues, which is a pity because we need to have a greener future.
Exactly. This let's hope that the future will be greener and that the young generation will take part in it.
I'm sure of that. You are the future.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.